You can find out multitudes of details on the internet. As I just learned today, an English horn is not actually English or a horn. It's French and it's an alto oboe. And a cucumber is not actually a vegetable, it's a fruit. As I have just found out, things are not always what they seem. In other words, appearances don't reveal what's truly on the inside of something. In the novel Catch-22 by Joseph Heller, this concept is further explored from the context of what we see as civilians that looks insane or crazy can actually make perfect sense or be revealed to be the best option when looked in the context of the craziness of war. To this end, multiple times, Heller uses anecdotal evidence about things that may appear insane when we read them, but are actually not when taken in the context of the craziness of war. One example of this is when Orr, one of the fighter pilots in the Air Force off the coast of Italy, is having relations with his prostitute. Orr had paid the prostitute to take her high heels and smack him over the head repeatedly and make him bleed all over the sheets instead of having sex with the prostitute. Now, at first glance, this appears absolutely nonsensical. And for much of the novel, it remains a mystery what his true motivations were. However, at the end of the novel, we receive a moment of clarity when it is revealed to us that Orr had actually been trying to make the prostitute give him such a concussive blow to the head that it would actually give him such a brain injury that he wouldn't be allowed to fight any longer and would be sent back to the United States. A piece of evidence to support this is found on page 25 when Heller says, "She shrieked and knocked him cold with a good solid crack on his temple that made him stop giggling." Another instance of this is when Orr is flying his plane. And in every single mission that Orr would fly as the pilot, the plane would always inevitably end up crash landing anywhere, often in the ocean. Another piece of evidence to support this is on page 312. "And get shot down with you every time you go? What's the fun in that?" Now, for much of the novel, this remains a mystery as to what Orr's motivation for crash landing his plane every time could be. However, at the end, it is revealed that his true motivation was practicing. For on his final crash landing, Orr uses the lifeboat and other rescue supplies to escape and row to Sweden to escape the inevitable cycle of war and having to fight for a cause he didn't really believe in. As Heller proves, war is crazy and often ineffective. This ineffectiveness is also explored through the story of Dr. Danika's death on page 340. The first person in the squadron to find out that Dr. Danica was dead was Surgeon Townser. Now, Dr. Danica was required because he was the doctor for a fighter group to serve a certain amount of flight hours or hours in an airplane each week. However, the doctor despised flying, and so he faked his own flight log. But inevitably, when one of his planes crashed, and he was not among one of those who parachuted out, it was assumed that he had died in the ensuing crash, when in fact he had not. This resulted in a whole Miranda of inefficiency, as Dr. Danica was cut off from his rations, from his food, from his clothing, from all sources of feasibly living, and had to borrow food from the squadron, while his wife received life insurance, social security benefits, and a multitude of other things that resulted in her getting rich and him living a miserable existence because of a logistical error that could have been easily remedied. And while the Catch-22 is best known for its Catch-22s, or situations that by their very understanding cannot be solved, Heller also explores the cliche that what seems absurd at first may actually make sense in the context of the insanity of war.